Nobody talks about what it costs you, physically, to parent through a crisis. The sound of a meltdown hitting your auditory system like a physical impact. The tension that builds in your body before the dysregulation even peaks. The way their nervous system state gets into yours whether you choose it or not. This video is about that cost. We talk a lot about co-regulating your child, about staying calm, lowering your voice, reducing demands. We talk almost nothing about what is happening in your body while you are doing that, and whether it is even possible when your own nervous system is already at its limit. And if you are neurodivergent yourself, if you carry your own sensory sensitivities, your own threat response, your own overload threshold, this is significantly harder than most parenting guidance acknowledges. You are not struggling because you lack skill. You're struggling because what's being asked is physiologically very difficult. Let's name what's actually happening in the body during these moments, because it's rarely spoken about directly. Sound first: a meltdown, a dysregulation episode, screaming or crying at full volume. That sound doesn't just register as noise. For a parent with auditory sensitivity, it lands in the nervous system as a threat signal. The body responds before the thinking brain has a chance to intervene. Your heart rate goes up, your muscles tense, you're now also dysregulated. Touch is another layer. Some parents find that physical contact during a child's distress, a child grabbing, clinging, needing physical closeness, can push their own sensory threshold in a direction that's very hard to manage. This doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a parent with a nervous system. There's also the cumulative effect. Your sensory threshold is not fixed. It depletes as the day goes on. By the afternoon, after a full day of navigating demands, noise, transitions, and the ambient tension of a PDA household, your capacity is significantly lower than it was at 8 a.m. The same stimulus that you could manage in the morning hits differently at 4 p.m. Here's the difficult truth at the center of all of this. Your child needs you to be regulated in order to co-regulate with them. That's how nervous system co-regulation works. They borrow your calm, but their dysregulation is actively dysregulating you. You are being asked to provide something that the situation is simultaneously taking from you. This is not a failure of skill or patience or love. It is a physiological conflict. Two nervous systems in the same space, both under threat, both pulling resources in the same direction. The guidance to just stay calm doesn't account for this reality. And two dysregulated nervous systems in one room do not simply cancel each other out. They compound. The child's dysregulation signals threat to the parent's system, which the child's system reads as threat in return, which escalates their dysregulation, which escalates yours. This is the loop that families get stuck in, and it is not anyone's fault. So what do you actually do? The framing that matters here is treating your own nervous system as clinically important, not as a luxury or a self-care add-on, but as a core variable in whether co-regulation is even possible. Start by knowing your own threshold. What specifically depletes your sensory capacity? Noise, touch, visual chaos, unpredictability? And what actually restores it, even partially? Not what should restore it. What actually does. This is practical knowledge about your own nervous system, and it matters. Build micro-recovery into the day where you can, not long quiet periods. That's often not available. Moments, a few minutes in a different room, noise-canceling headphones during a calmer window, something cold or grounding, small sensory resets that partially restore what the day is taking. Name what's happening out loud, to yourself and sometimes to your child. I need a minute. I'm going to step into the other room and I'll be right back. For an older PDA child especially, naming your own sensory state is not weakness. It models exactly the kind of self-awareness you're trying to help them develop. Reducing your own demand load is not selfish. It is the strategy. Every unnecessary demand you can remove from your own day gives you slightly more capacity for the moments that require it. This is the same logic you apply to your child's demand load. Apply it to yours. Sometimes there isn't a clean solution. Both nervous systems are past threshold, the moment is happening, and there is no exit option. In those moments, the bar is not co-regulation. The bar is safety. No one gets hurt. Sometimes the best available option is creating physical distance, reducing stimulation where possible, and waiting it out without escalating further. That is not failure. That is damage limitation in a genuinely difficult situation. Repair matters, with your child and with yourself. A calm conversation after the storm, when both nervous systems have settled, often does more for the relationship than anything that happens during the peak. And the way you speak to yourself after a hard moment matters too. You were in a difficult situation. You did what you could. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. That's true. But also, you don't need to be full. You don't need to be a perfectly regulated, endlessly patient co-regulation machine. You need to be just enough, just often enough, to keep the relationship intact and keep the nervous system broadly safe. That is a reachable target. Full is not. If you are neurodivergent yourself and parenting a PDA child, if you are navigating your own sensory world while trying to hold space for theirs, there are other parents in this community who know that exact weight. You don't have to explain it from the beginning. Free Discord community in the description, link below. I'll see you in the next video.